Once again, this is Jolly Jan with What's Your Viewpoint? And in the studio with us here today is Arthur Ben Venisti. Arthur, what can you tell us about crypto Jews?
Well, interestingly, we have been discovering crypto Jews in the United States. New Mexico is where the largest number of them live, but also throughout the Southwest, Arizona, Texas, a few in California. There are several communities in Brazil and in Spain, and interestingly, there's a community in northern Portugal called Belmont, first discovered in 1919. They were discovered by a Polish-Jewish mining engineer who was working up there. And when he found them, they were very reluctant to admit that they were Jewish.
Why was that so, actually?
Because they were in hiding. They didn't want it known that they were Jewish. He found them by accident.
What would happen if they were discovered? If they had been discovered, would they have been killed?
In 1919, no. But up until about 1800, they would have been punished by the Portuguese Inquisition. Now, by the 20th century, Portugal was open, and there were many Jews. Ashkenazi Jews had moved into Lisbon around that time, and they were fine. But the tradition of persecution was still with them. Plus, there's the social ostracism. Their neighbors would have looked down on them. But when they were discovered, they thought they were the only Jews in the world.
Wow.
And I've been to visit them twice, 1994 and then about 8 years ago.
So it was lonely being Jewish in those days then?
Yes, they would practice their Judaism in their cellars. They would, interestingly, their Judaism was handed down verbally. They didn't have formal training. So their Passover ceremony, they didn't have a Jewish calendar, so they just did this ceremony about a week before Easter. It was called the Santa Festa, the Holy Feast. They made unleavened bread, and they told the story that Moses was ejected from Egypt by the Inquisition and was rescued by Saint Esther. Interestingly, also, they would have their children baptized in the church, but then they would come home and have a Jewish naming ceremony for them.
Which Jewish ceremony?
A Jewish ceremony to name the children with Jewish.
A naming ceremony.
Naming, yes. For weddings, they would have the Jewish wedding first secretly at home, 2 or 3 days before the Catholic wedding. Make sure the bride and groom have slept together before they go to the Catholic wedding.
Why was that important?
Well, in that society it was. They were a very old and very conservative society. When they entered the church, they would say under their breath, "We come not to worship wood or stone, we come to worship only you, our one God."
So, in other words, the Catholic believed that they should not have relations before marriage?
Right.
So they did it on purpose, just to show that they were married under the Jewish faith?
Yes. But that was not just a Catholic. Most of the religions in those days believed that. Interestingly, also, their Jewish ceremonies were always conducted by the women. When they came out into the open in 1987, they had their first openly Jewish wedding in 1988. Some people in the United States raised money and hired a Moroccan rabbi to go to be with them, to instruct them in Judaism. And one of the things he taught them was to put the women in the back of the room, and many of the women to this day resent that.
Stay tuned.